Biohacking. I'm Ferdi Salvador, and welcome to Industry Beacon, where we shine a light on the trailblazers, the disruptors, and the leaders shaping our future. And in each episode, we'll explore how they're staying ahead in their fields, one industry at a time. In focus this morning, the emerging trends in healthcare, and of course, the big industry it is, specifically on functional medicine. Putting a premium on health has long been the priority of Filipinos, and since the pandemic, the importance of accessible healthcare has only been amplified. How did the industry evolve since then? Joining us now is Dr. Oyie Balburias, a certified functional medicine practitioner and medical director of Rhodium Regenerative Institute. Good morning, Dr. Oyie. Thank you so much for being here on the show this morning.
Good morning, Ferdi. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so this is a great interest to us, and of course, especially for me, because, regenerative or functional medicine is something that a lot of Filipinos don't have access to, right? Tell us the difference between functional and regenerative medicine.
Well, actually, regenerative medicine involves a lot of advanced technology pertaining to stem cells. But functional medicine is actually just an approach to our body from the perspective of health.
Yes.
Okay. It simply answers two questions: what's causing or what's driving why this person is having a lot of chronic conditions or chronic diseases. So once you identify that, then you need to eliminate it or remove it. No? And at the same time, with the help of regenerative medicine or regenerative treatment modalities, we also try to answer the question, what could help restore back the balance of that particular person's biological system, so that we could either reverse chronic diseases or prevent it or delay it from causing a lot of complications.
So it is a possibility. What's the difference naman with conventional medicine and regenerative or functional medicine?
Well, conventional medicine is expertise towards managing the disease. No? But regenerative medicine or functional medicine is focused on the root causes why those chronic conditions or chronic diseases is happening in the first place. No? So simply addressing the root causes. No? That's the difference between functional medicine, regenerative medicine versus conventional medicine.
Wellness is such a big industry, and everybody's talking about it. Wellness here, wellness that, whether it be spas or non-conventional breath work and stuff like that. And it is a humongous business. In fact, a lot of hospitality companies are investing billions of dollars into their wellness programs. Do you think that regenerative or functional medicine can be part of this whole wellness industry in terms of not being retail, obviously, because it's expensive, and we'll talk about that later, but in the whole, when I take a holiday, I can go to a regenerative center and deal with my chronic diseases?
Well, basically, many of these treatment modalities have been around. No? The only difference now is that there's such a thing as scientific wellness or measured wellness. So everything from traditional healing modalities, it can now be measured as far as its impact on our biological system. So that's the only difference. But yes, it should be, I don't consider it as expensive. I consider it like an investment towards your health. No, it's simply just changing the perspective. Whether do you want to spend for chronic diseases forever?
Correct.
Or you want to invest now in your health so that you not only achieve longevity, but you also achieve longevity with vitality. In other words, health span rather than just achieving lifespan.
Right. Let's just put it in perspective. Tell us about your medical background. What did you study first? I wanna know so that we can tell our viewers how you got into this.
Well, originally I am a trained general internist. That's actually the specialization towards managing adult diseases. Okay. But I realized about 16 years ago that there's a big difference if you want to manage the health of a person versus managing the disease of a person. So a lot of doctors are really experts in managing chronic diseases. So But what I try to bring in is how do you avoid developing chronic diseases in the first place? And that's where functional and regenerative medicine come into play. You know? So this is where you can already determine your risk predisposition, how likely it is that your genetics will develop into a chronic condition. Like, for example, cancer.
Yes.
We know for a fact that cancer right now is coming in second as one of the top chronic conditions affecting Filipinos.
And
so
it's a telling of our lifestyle. Yeah.
Correct. So a lot of people now are preferring not to really just take it as part of their genes. No? In fact, we're not doomed by our genes. No? So with epigenetics, we can actually influence how our genes are expressed.
That's important what you just said, Doc. I hope you don't mind me interjecting, because you just said something very important. We're not doomed by our genes.
Yes, correct.
So because in my layman's opinion or perspective, your predisposition, once you're born, whatever your parents gave you is what you're going to deal with in the later parts of your life, correct?
Yep.
So you're saying now that can be prevented.
Correct.
So there's a bright light at the end of your your medical journey.
Yes, correct. And previously, even gene testing is quite expensive, but nowadays you can do it. Anyone can do it, right? So from $100,000 previously, it's only done during research, but nowadays even direct-to-consumer gene testing, you can already know your genetic predisposition. And once you know that information, you can utilize that information on how you can either down-regulate a bad gene or up-regulate a good gene. No? So that's epigenetics.
Yes.
No? So that you could influence, you could change the course. Let's say, for example, you have a heredofamilial disease in your family, like cancer.
Okay, I was about to say yes. I need some titles.
Okay, heredofamilial meaning to say it is passed on, really.
Right,
They are,
okay.
But actually, only 10% of cancer in particular is due to heredity. No? A lot of them are really due to compromises in our lifestyle and in our environment, in particular our nutrition.
Right.
So
let's go back just a few steps. So from conventional medicine, now you are a medical director of Regenerative Institute, which is a functional medicine institute, right? How did you get? Sorry,
it's actually a health span center.
Health span center.
So we want to offer patients options,
right?
Whether they want to continue spending for their chronic diseases, or do they want to invest in order to restore back the balance of their health system.
How did you get from conventional to where you are now?
Well, just like me, just like my many patients, I also, when I reached the age of 42, 12 years ago, I started manifesting with symptoms and conditions that really affected my health and my function. But there's nothing can be identified as a disease on what I'm experiencing. So that's when I turned myself with the help of a functional medicine doctor, and he evaluated my case, and then he said, there's no diseases yet, but there are a lot of systems imbalances in my body. Yeah. But it can be corrected if I'm just going to really change my food intake, my sleep, my stress level, those things. So in other words, I'm a beneficiary of this practice as well.
That was the turning point. Very interesting. Obviously, a few years back, we've come from the pandemic, and how has that changed the approach of Filipinos towards healthcare, affordable and of course premium healthcare?
Actually, a lot of what we call biohackers, self-biohackers. No? A lot of people, they're not doctors, but they're aware as to how you can biohack your body system, particularly the biological system.
Are you referring to like stem cells and stuff like that?
Not exactly, but sometimes just really basically changing your food intake, understanding what your body system needs as far as micronutrients and macronutrients can make a big difference as far as your health is concerned. No? So, and there are a lot of biohackers who are into not just stem cells, but even fasting. No? It's one way that it's cheap, it's free, right? So fasting is one way to regenerate your system. Fasting actually activates what you call autophagy, the body's ability to restore itself, to repair itself, to clean itself.
Wow.
No? So there's so many other modalities like thermal stress, like use of cold and
I've done that.
And
It's amazing,
hot
yeah.
thermal stress. No?
Yes.
Thermal stress, hot thermal stress can activate what we call heat shock proteins.
Yes.
No? One of the reparative proteins that our body produces.
Is that the what you call it, the infrared
sauna, or you can do it on your own. No? So others, they create their own sauna in their backyard.
Yeah.
No? So it can be done. I mean, it not need necessarily not to be expensive for the. No? But yes, you're correct. There are many advanced technologies present that can be utilized to make these things easy. But there are also other options pertaining to regenerative medicine by tapping into our own body's ability to repair itself.
All right. So, quite interesting. Moving forward, of course, medicine, it's not affordable for unfortunately a lot of people, but we'll get back to that. And now we're going to take a quick break. Industry Beacon will be right back. Stay with us. And we are back. You're still watching Industry Beacon here on BNC. Let's continue our chat with Dr. Oyie Balburias of RRI, or Rhodium Regenerative Institute. So, Doc, please tell me, how do we address misinformation in health in your particular segment?
Well, that's really challenging, Ferdi, because right now the problem with healthcare industry is that there's too much information available.
Yes.
Unlike before, where patients are just reliant on their doctors, pertaining to their health. But now, too much information. I think the important thing there is that recognizing what are facts when it comes to our health. So especially with regards to, after the pandemic, a lot of people really have lost trust in the medical authorities. But I think what's important is for us to recognize that where we get our information, and who's giving those kinds of information. Whether, if it's coming from government agencies like our Department of Health, they have accountabilities. They have being the authorities, right? So that if in case they make a mistake, they will be liable to those mistakes.
Right.
As compared if you're just simply trusting someone who's very influential in social media, and you follow what is the recommendation of that particular person or that particular influencer. Maybe he's correct, maybe what he's telling you is scientific, it's truth, it's factful, but whether it is applicable to your health system or to what your body system needs, that is when it becomes a problem. Because if you follow what is the recommendation of that particular person and he's not accountable to you, then whatever consequences of that, it's all on you. Right?
Interesting insight.
Yes.
What about the misconception? Okay, in the past few, let's say a decade ago or even more than that, if I had the money, I can afford to go get stem cells in, let's say, Europe or the US, right? And it's going to cost me millions of pesos. Has that changed? Is it more acceptable now, or not, rather than acceptable, more accessible?
Okay. Well, it's still expensive.
Yeah, because stem cells is like, your top tier type of treatment to prevent diseases, or.
But there's a clear indication as to the application of stem cells.
Yes.
So that's one thing that is certain at this point. So, and of course, it's quite expensive. So, and a stem cell is not going to be enough. It's the technology, it's the advances in technology, but whether that stem cell will differentiate, whether that stem cell will survive into your biological system, it still is subject to evidence.
So you have to be well informed.
Correct.
Trust who you're going to, right?
Correct.
And if it's actually for you. What are other alternatives to stem cells for a layperson like me that wants to get healthier?
Well, when we exercise, actually, we produce stem cells. We enhance production of stem cells. Because stem cells are produced when our body perceives certain damage.
I never knew that.
So exercise is sort of like a pseudo-injury. So when we do exercise, we increase and activate production of stem cells. Of course, stem cells, as we age, declines its production. And that's where it has its application, especially for those people who have reached longevity
Right.
and would want to have vitality as well, that's
Right.
where a clear indication as to stem cells can be applied. No?
Right.
But there are many modalities that,
Such as?
natural modalities that could enhance our body's ability to produce its own stem cell. Like I've said, fasting itself.
Fasting.
Exercise.
Exercise.
No? Of course, making sure that you're sleeping biologically. No? So because a lot of people nowadays, they're sleep deprived and they're sleep disrupted.
Yeah.
No? So because it doesn't matter if you're getting 8 hours of sleep, but if the circadian pattern of your sleep is not aligned with how our body is connected to our environment, meaning to say what you call chronobiology, no? Because we're supposed to be asleep from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Okay, but nowadays our 24 hours.
I don't have a pen, but I'm gonna take I'm gonna take note of that definitely.
Because nowadays 24 hours is different from different people,
Right.
right? Some their day is our night is our day. That is going to have a consequences with regards to your biological system.
What about, okay, so at my tender age of 35, I start to get a cloudy brain. Like, I do forget, you know, when you go to the refrigerator, you open it and you're like, what was I supposed to get here? You know, I've had an instance, and I'm going to admit it on air right now in live, that I've left my mobile phone inside the refrigerator and didn't know where it was. How can you address something like that?
Those are early manifestations for of what we call mild cognitive impairment. The problem is
Mild cognitive impairment. I have that.
Which is an indicator of energy deficit.
Right.
Okay. Because the reason why we need to eat is because our body needs to produce, our cell needs to produce a chemical energy called ATP. Okay. So manifestations of symptoms like that is an indication that you're suffering from what we call brain fog or brain-based
What can
fatigue.
you do about that?
Okay.
So I'm happy you told me that, because
Okay.
now I know I'm not getting Alzheimer's. What can you do for that?
Well, we can-
any medical.
We can enhance your energy system. No? So how you're metabolizing your food in order to create that chemical energy. No? So, and either I use peptides or IV nutrients that is needed as a cofactor to generate more energy for your system. Because this chemical energy, our brain demands a high amount of this.
Yes.
So that's why the brain is the window to energy metabolism. So when you start manifesting with symptoms like mild cognitive impairment, that is already an indication.
Yes,
that
because
you're
this is,
lacking
you know,
in
I
energy.
mean, our viewers, Doc Oyie, of course, are, you know, executive, top executives in their companies, and I'm sure they've had the same thing I'm going through. And it's very important for them to be informed about this. And I'm sure I would love to talk the whole day to talk to you about these things. But second to the last major question: do you think that the healthcare industry in the Philippines is affordable?
Well, when
In your segment.
Okay. When you develop chronic diseases like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, cancer, okay, you become a guaranteed returning customer into the hospital industry, into the pharmaceutical industry. No? So that's why it's quite expensive.
That
really.
feeds the monster.
Yes,
Okay.
that feeds the monster, right? You're correct. So that's why if you can find a way to really delay, reverse, or prevent the onset or manifestation of these chronic diseases, I think that is worth investing into, right? So, and rather than just, because you have to remember, diseases, particularly chronic diseases, develops before they are detected. No?
Yes,
so,
sir.
because our body as a system, it's an adaptive system. It will always try to maintain our balance until it can, but once it starts manifesting with evidence of disease, that's it. You've already depleted that body's ability to repair and restore itself.
I'm definitely going to you for health, Scott, just to make sure that my tender age of 35 is on top of its game. Last question. What's your biggest mistake?
Biggest mistake? I guess being a workaholic. Thinking that I can do, like I can be the manager of the universe. No? So, but when my health became compromised, that's when I realized that once your health is compromised and gives up, whatever you want to do, it's going to be impacted or affected.
So invest in your health.
Yes, correct.
Doc
correct.
Oyie. All right. Thank you so much once again for being part of the show this morning. I've learned a bit, albeit short, I've learned a lot from you. And that is it for today's show. I'm Ferdi Salvador. Catch the Billionaire News channel on Free TV, Channel 31, and on cable via Cignal, Channel 24. Thank you for watching the Billionaire News channel. Always on top.